Hello and welcome to another episode of the
Black Koffee Comics.
Okay,
Goddamn, what it does for the Just Because.
We just got finished filming the Kulture podcast.
Yeah, we did.
So I'm a little discombobulated. My apologies. But yes, welcome back to another episode of the Black Koffee Comics podcast. It is I, your girl, Ty Blaque in Kulture, and with me is my illustrious co-host,
Space Lloyd 8, of course, and when we do reviews like this, we talk about everything in general and nothing in particular, as always.
Everything from manga to comics to webtoons, graphic novels, you name it. If it is sequential, comic book, art, stuff, adjacent, whatever, we're going to talk about it.
Back to the end.
And today's docket, we have a lot of really good comics. We've got Antagonist, we've got Clinic of Horrors, we've got... Cool. We took notes this time, so I'm pretty happy.
Oh, yeah.
We've got Something is Killing the Children, and Everything is Fine.
Oh, we got 4 this time.
We have 4 this time.
All
it is so exciting.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, so without further dilly-dally or delay, let's get into these comics. But first, I must ask, how are you doing this evening?
You know what? Life is very productive right now.
Productive.
Like I've made it because I had to ease back into the comics and stuff last year and getting comfortable with finding proper and healthy escapes. But this year, I'm kicking that off strong. Hence this kind of this podcast, this format, and all that. So I'm chilling.
Yeah, chilling like a villain, just like you should. And speaking of villains, see what I did there? Perfect segue to our first comic, The Antagonist, issues 1 through 3 by Godhood Comics, created by Tyler Martin and illustrated by Matteo Illuminati for issue 3, and Giacomo Guida for issue 1 and 2. That's Guida.
That's Giacomo Guida.
Okay, you're so good, but stop it, let me be wrong. No, you should always be right. Thank you so much, my translator, for doing English better than me.
Anytime. Literally anytime.
You know what, you're making these segues hard. You're making this hard for me to segue properly.
I can alter the position for the transition, so go ahead and do your thing.
Anywho, Antagonist, again, written by Tyler Martin with a couple of different artists depending on the issue. Antagonist, just as a brief overview, basically follows the storyline of 2 supervillains, Destructus and Ultima, and their rise and fall as superheroes. They started off super strong. They are the supervillains that succeeded. They're the supervillains that took over. They won. And then they became normal people. They blended into society. They became regular people. They became, what did Ultima become? She was a realtor. She was a top realtor at a firm, right? Yeah. And Destructus became a high school principal. And they had kids, 3 of them. And they're living their lives to the fullest. But what happens when assimilation is no longer possible? What happens when your past catches up with you? That is essentially the story of an Antagonist, and I freaking loved it. It was such a blast to read. Just every moment of this comic it's worth reading.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
You know, it's these indie comics that we pull, like especially these Black indie comics, just never cease to floor me.
They do not miss.
Full clip each and every time.
Yeah.
And so specifically with Antagonist, one of the best things I love about this is unapologetically Black. Like, this is a Black comic. A comic for Black people, by Black people, about Black people. I really loved it. And
it doesn't just bring Black characters. It brings Black matters, Black situations at hand. Without going too much into it, you see, for example, one of them being treated at work like, of course, she works so hard, and well, obviously, I'm talking about Ultima, but she's treated so poorly at work. Well, they love what she produces, and then there's a promotion up. And she's been working there for a good 6 or 7 years.
7 years? I think it was more like 10 years, 10. Right?
Yeah, my bad.
Just
Double
about.
Digits. So 10 years, and the promotion comes up, and they give it to the guy that's only been there for about 6 months. And they're like, well, I put it into and her supervisor that was supposed to put in a good word and actually bat for her. Oh,
just I pitched it to the board and I did,
But she has super
job.
hearing from people and she hears people in the break room. I heard that he immediately threw away her recommendation, didn't even mention them. She's the one that talked him down. And he's like, you can only be that good because you just do well under me. They'll never accept you. So in this superhero world, without it being too overbearing, it brings up relatable shit. How many times have you been like, look, I had to work twice as hard and still hit the ceiling and hope somebody feels generous enough to give me an opportunity I'm overqualified for, right? So that's faced in there, and how she responds is how I would expect her to respond. And she's the one with the super strength, not the husband.
Yeah, she is. I love the fact that it tackles a lot of really tough Black issues. It talks about, in the first issue alone, like Tanya, that's the wife who's also Ultima, she does have the super strength. She's got all the Superman powers. She's got the super strength. She's got the flight. She's got the hearing. She's got the heat vision. She's got all of the things that we typically associate with strong male roles, but this is the wife. She's got it all. And she's definitely got a fiery attitude to back it up.
Now the husband ain't no slouch either, though.
No, ain't no slouch, but we're finishing up with Tanya.
You're right. My bad.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil, because I like Calvin too, but we're just giving the docket about Tanya herself. When, specifically when she's like finding out about all the board stuff in issue 1, I just love how, like, she goes back into Homeboy's office, the guy, actual CEO of the entire firm, who ran the entire firm, and basically he's like, don't come at me with the Medea stuff, let's not pull the race card, which is something that I've actually heard in Workplace. Don't pull the race card, let's not make it about Black people, when unfortunately, we as Black people, it is our race, especially when we're physically Black.
It has to be. It's not like, and what annoys me the most is when people can see what you're about to say coming, which means that they're cognizant of what they're doing to you, but they feel like if they say it before you, then it's a non-issue. Now you're going to tell me that you're going to report me to HR because of racially charged. Now you just saying it before me doesn't make it any less bad.
Nope.
So like the fact that she faces that before, he's like, what are you going to do about it? And she actually can do something about it. It's crazy.
And then the lying, just going behind her and still lying to her face. I've got you, girl. I've got you, sis. Our kids play together. My kids goes to your kids' school. Like, he throws all these emotions into there while still simultaneously lying to her. And that's the most infuriating thing, when you find out at the same time she finds out that she was being played like a fiddle. And I'm not going to spoil it, but Tanya, she that girl. And I love how unapologetically Black she is. Like, there's no question about it. Tanya is definitely your mom that's at home, your big sister that's at home, because when she comes home, she's got and not only even after she had a tough day at work, she still comes home and deals with the kids. She still comes home and is the mother. But also when she's with her husband Calvin, something that we don't get to see a lot in media is that she also gets a chance to be a vulnerable Black woman. She gets to go home to her husband, and Calvin gets to console her throughout her problems, and Calvin gets to be there, and he's basically like, you know what, baby, I got you. Which brings us into Calvin, the dad, who is Destructus. He's amazing.
Hell yeah.
He's amazing.
Dude's the bee's knees.
Top 10 anime daddies. I know he's not an anime daddy, but top 10 anime daddies of the century. Love him so much.
Man, he is so in tune. Like, he's the one he has the telekinetic and telepathic abilities, not telekinetic. So, he, as a principal, like, he uses that for the people around him. Like, where it's so commonplace for him and his daughter, because his daughter goes to the high school he's the principal of. She's like, no, don't be in my head. Just talk this time, please. At least let me explain my case or whatever. He has a secretary, and in her mind, he's like, ooh, child, my feet are hurting. He's like, you know what? Just send my daughter in, and go ahead and take an extra 30 minutes off. Stay off your feet. And like,
he gave her a 2-hour lunch.
A 2-hour lunch, goddamn. And I
wish.
And dude was intelligent. Like he and I almost struggle with the idea of them being like the super villains. Like in the public perception of they're super villains. But
no, they're definitely villains. They're unquestionably villains.
No, they were but who were they fighting? They were fighting for somebody or for something though. Still.
I'll table it. I'll let you finish talking about Calvin.
Because remember their dialogue between him and the blonde hair, blue eye.
Yeah, and the American. The American is actually one of the quote unquote heroes in this story. I think that the one thing I love that the antagonist does is that it doesn't shy away from the fact that they are in fact the antagonist. They are the hero. I mean, yeah, you can look at it from the other side of the screen and be like, oh, but really, they're the heroes. No, they still fucked up. They still killed people. They still caused mass destruction. They still disturbed the peace. Yeah, no one said that America is great by any means, but basically when they were just going about their villainous ways, basically we're going to take this country by any means necessary, they did that, and they killed a whole lot of innocent people in the process. They took out a lot of innocence in the process, and it basically ponders the question to you, to what length are you willing to destroy? To what length will you go in order to bring about this peace? And how many people have to end up getting hurt in order for you to bring about that? That's all a war is.
That's a fair question.
So they're villains. I'm sorry,
the people that they specifically went for and attacked weren't. They weren't. At least from what the comics showed, they weren't going to civilians specifically and trying to kill them. They went to get the president.
That's true.
And the people that ended up dying were people that were in tanks firing at them. They had guns aimed at them and shooting at them. So I'm not excusing all of their behavior. Of course not. My question is, what did they find that made them give up when they finally got the power?
Parents. I mean, them becoming parents. Tiny got pregnant.
I mean, but even with them having kids, they still ran the world ever so briefly. But it wasn't enough to change.
So you're saying that the kids weren't the only thing?
They couldn't have been the only thing. I mean, of course you're like, oh, I have all this power. So they successfully with the American after their fight with the American, and they quested for the White House, and they set all these demands with all these different countries. Why was it 20 years later that it still ended up just like the America that we know and settle with, not know and love?
I mean, it's not like, we've never had war on American soil, but I would assume that it's just like, if you're talking, not the war that we think of when we think of war, not like the war that happened over in Iran and Iraq, not the war that happened during the Cold War. We've never had quote unquote war on our soil. Yes, have we had a plethora of atrocities? Is there definitely a crap ton of domestic terrorism? Absolutely, no question about it. But the war that people think of when you say, oh, there's a war brewing, it's not the war that's ever been here in the States, not by any means, not by any standards that we would hold it to.
That's fair.
So,
that's fair.
Crap, I done lost my place in my brain.
It does, but that comic does bring so many, like, if you wanted to get a glimpse of what could be, like the stuff that goes on in the back of a black nerd's mind, like what we could do if we had these powers, like it's The Incredibles. It's The Incredibles.
It is an inverted Incredibles.
Instead of I'm not happy, Bob, it's okay. Don't go all shenane on me while I pass you up there.
I'm not happy, Bob. You know what happens when I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I definitely, that's a good analogy. Maybe that was intentional by Tyler. I like that. I think I didn't even get a chance to talk about the kids. That's another part of the antagonist that I really I liked about the comic itself. The kids are all so great. I have my favorite character, Taj. He is the youngest. I think, how old is he? Like 6, maybe 10? I don't know, maybe 10. And he's the genius. He basically picks up the genius trope. He's basically Dexter's laboratory on acid. Guy is super smart. A cute little dog that follows him with all of his experiments. And he's so smart and intelligent. There's a scene in issue 2 or 3 where the sister basically gets grounded because she's over there. I think she was either fighting or skipping class or whatever the case was. Mm-hmm. So the parents ground her. They take away her phone. So basically, she has this little rack with all of her other siblings. She has an older brother named Trey and the younger brother Taj. So as Aaliyah, the sister, is going through basically trying to figure out her little arrangements with her brothers, she's like, well, he came up with the ice cream syrup in order that would eliminate all like the negatives of like processed sugars and things like that. Basically eliminating, in his words, obesity. And he's like, and she's like, well, can't you just cure cancer? He was like, you can't understand the economic collapse that would occur if we cure cancer. And besides, I cured cancer when I was 4. And I was just like, oh.
Wait, what?
No, what? you just out here curing cancer, kid?
Yeah.
Just out here curing cancer? Yeah, Tasha's my favorite character. I could gush about the kid the whole time. The other brothers are cool too. I mean, the other brother is cool too. Trey is... We don't really get to see too much of Trey though.
We don't.
We don't get to see too much of him. Aaliyah's fun though. She's spunky. She phases through walls. That's her ability. Well, what's the X-Men character that can phase in stuff?
Kitty. I know that her name is Kitty. Forgot what her X-Men name is, but
Kitty Pryde, I think.
Yeah, Kitty Pryde.
Kitty Pryde. Yeah.
Can't remember what her actual thing. No, I'll have to Google it.
I'll have to Google it. Anywho, X-Men cat girl phase through walls. That's all you need to know. We know what it is. Anywho, she has basically her abilities. She can phase herself through walls. We haven't seen too much of... Honestly, we didn't get a chance to see too much of the kids. The first 3 episodes were basically building on the parents and their backstory. We got to see a little bit of their powers, but everything is just kind of like... These first 3 issues of Antagonist is the building blocks of what will end up being issues 4, 5, and 6 that I think are currently on Kickstarter or were kickstarted at some point. I can't remember right now, but basically those books are on their way now. So if you are interested in any capacity of reading the Antagonist for yourself, you absolutely should go to godhoodcomics.com, grab some comics for yourself. They're actually pretty affordable, by the way. They're like $7 a comic.
Yeah,
I
think. Not bad.
Not bad for an indie comic. And they're very well done. The paper is really nice. I think the print overall is amazing. I didn't even talk about the art. The art is really clean. I love the art. Like I said, this is an unapologetically black comic, and you should absolutely read it. Even if you're not in it for like, you're not as interested in the black aspect, which if you're not, red flag. But if that's not why you're there, you're just like, I just want a really cool comic, just regardless if it has black people in it or not, I highly recommend Antagonist. So yeah. Anything else you want to say about Antagonist before we move on?
The rest of it, I wouldn't want to take away from the experience of people discovering it, you know? Because I love the cool thing about the comics or anime or anything else that we bring up, especially when it's black, is that it's so good as a standalone that it doesn't take away from the story. It's just nice to see this insert of, what about this part of representation? You just got to go outside of Marvel and DC for it. There's no okay, we got to make up for something you might have found in the 70s or 80s. It's a dope thing that everybody can enjoy. And they're great stories overall. We're not even giving participation trophies for comics. Like, oh no, we got to give it a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5. No, because I will tear all the good ones apart and the bad ones even worse. And you'll hear it.
Absolutely.
But these ones are pretty solid so far.
Oh yeah.
This one's definitely espresso though.
Oh yeah,
That's
absolutely an espresso book, top tier, definitely 10 out of 10 cups. Would definitely drink again. And next comic on our docket here, like I said, we took notes. We are prepared today.
Yeah, we did.
We're gonna do Clinic of Horrors. Ooh, Clinic of Horrors. Created by Merryweather Ray and art by Pokuri Mio. It is a webtoon, and it's a lot of fun.
It is.
It is.
It's a super fun one.
Of fun. I love Clinic of Horrors. I want to say Little Clinic of Horrors because I think it's like a play off of a Little Shop of Horrors, but it's so fun. I just gotta take a moment to talk about the art for Clinic of Horrors. It's so cute. It's like super bubbly and pink and pastel and super anime. Like, if you definitely have watched any weird wonky anime, it definitely gives you those vibes. I love it. I'm calling it Little Clinic of Horrors. I don't care. Little Clinic of Horrors is great.
That's fine. I'm sure they won't be mad or judge, even though I am. That's what's up.
Well, glad I'm not asking you for your opinion.
That's too bad. I'm gonna give it anyway.
Okay, well, give your opinion anyway. You've been kind of quiet anyway.
I was letting you have your little space. You know what I mean? You over here giving your general overview, so I didn't want to overlap.
I appreciate
but
it.
But I will agree with you though. It's a refreshing anime, even though it pulls into a lot of dark elements, and it's very introspective. But it's not like we're gonna talk deeply about the colors are light. The color palette is kind of all over the place, so you'll still see like bright colors like neon blue and pink as you see them battling ungodly things.
Oh yeah.
And then they always come back to this dead-faced nurse assistant
Bianca,
and this doctor that just can't stop smiling in pink Crocs. But then you see in an issue like another side of him.
Oh yeah.
Where, like before the whole over smiling and extra thumbs up and high five and type. So they definitely have layers to them, and their backstories are kind of woven in there a little bit. You get little glimpses, but all the while they're just saving the day from regular people, saving them from themselves. Because it's a dystopia, but like their home is like the clinic's office is kind of the home base.
Yeah. So general overview. Little Clinic of Horrors basically follows a small little clinic ran by a nurse that wears a pastel pink nurse's outfit with bright pastel pink hair, and a doctor. Well, her name is Bianca. The doctor named Dr. Albright. He's got these big, goofy, swirly glasses, big grin, dirty, just ruffled hair, and wears like a cheesy polo with a wacky tie and an overcoat. And basically the two of them take on the weirdest anomalies in this regular town. However, this there's definitely a dystopia. It doesn't look like a dystopia because of the pink colors, but it's absolutely a dystopia. And that's pretty much all you need to know. It's definitely written anthology style, so like you can pop in and out as needed. You don't like have to read every episode, but just like Lloyd was saying, there are some episodes that do talk about their backstory, like maybe one or two issues here and there, kind of just sprinkled throughout to give you a little bit more insight. Yeah, Little Clinic of Horrors is great. Also, Little Clinic of Horrors is by far one of the best comics I've ever seen tackle so many different topics while completely like I'm just gonna read off a list of things I did when I did my reread of this comic that it tackles. Bailiff, read the bill. Oh, thank you, Bailiff.
I ain't no goddamn bailiff.
I was talking to myself. Gosh.
Oh.
Anywho, this comic addresses capitalism, the medical industry, and the capitalism within the medical industry, government, the government abusing its citizens, trauma, black markets, drug use, perversion and corruption of government, and its officials, the social mentality and the influence of media, mental health, overwork, hustle culture, brainwashing, human experimentation, poverty, class and wealth inequality, and so much more. I think I'm still missing stuff. Like, I'm not even joking, it really does touch on all of those things. And in a cutesy way, too. Like, it's so well written. Like, it's super well executed. Oh, so well executed. Yes. Oh, man. It's just my brain just starts to, like, kind of hyper go over stuff because it's that good. That's all I have for right now. Like, my brain is, like, kind of buzzing. There's so much to talk about. I took a quick break from it, and by the time I came back, they officially became a Webtoons original. Because it used to just be a standalone, independent comic. But it's so good and it's simple that Webtoons was like, yeah, we'll officially back this and make this a thing. But each of the episodes, or issues, I'll say, each of the issues are super, super short. They maybe only have about 10 panels, but they get a lot done in those 10 or 12 panels. And then at the end, they always show like fan art from their fans. Oh yeah. Super, super cute stuff. Now, Bianca, who's the nurse, is the one that usually gets the most love with their fan art. So, because her trademark is like the pink and blue, like bandages that kind of look like pills, or her barrettes or whatever.
But at the Albright Clinic, you see like glimpses of how you would tackle those big issues, because the people that end up affected by there's like this one facility where they just keep releasing your endorphins into you, but like people end up, it's crazy. There's so much in there. You just got to see it for yourself.
Yeah, I don't think that we should spoil anything. However, I will say, if you are someone who is looking to read Clinic of Horrors on Webtoon, from the last time I tried to reread it, it wouldn't let me read it on my Webtoon app. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but Webtoon, if you're listening,
get on that,
you need to fix that. I don't know what that was. It's not giving. However, if you do go on Webtoon, the web browser, like if you go through Webtoon on your web browser, you can read Clinic of Horrors. I'm not sure if they're planning on releasing any more right now. It's kind of like at a pause. I'm not sure when they're coming back, but there definitely is enough there on Webtoon to binge. It's definitely worth binging. I recommend it to anybody. It's layered enough that if you're someone who's like, I'm looking for a light read, you can just read it and get a light read. But if you're someone who likes to theorize and go over the tiny details, there's enough to keep your theorist brain theorizing. So, yeah.
Keep the wheels spinning up, down.
And as we finish up with Clinic of Horrors, we move into Something is Killing the Children.
I love that series.
By James Tynion. The fourth, I think I've got it. James Tynion, the fourth, all right. And Werther del Adrea.
I'm not gonna correct you on that one. You good? Don't.
That's your job.
That's my job.
It's your job to correct me.
No.
It is del Adrea. It is del Adrea. It's Werther del Adrea. It's EDR.
Why did your voice act like I'm arguing?
Said okay. I feel like you're not.
I said okay.
Okay, if someone just gets back to them and they're just like, that's not how you say my name,
then that means that they paid attention to our podcast and we could ask them if they're going to support us next time. Bam. You're welcome.
Shut up. Anywho, yeah, Something is Killing the Children it's a good comic. It's a good comic.
It's great.
It's one
You've
of the
only
best.
read the first volume.
I have only read the first volume. I'll say this before I give my more. Oh crap! We didn't give a rating for Clinic of Horrors.
Blonde roast.
It's a blonde roast.
It's a blonde roast.
I like blonde.
I say that because it's only under, because blonde roast is like the second highest, right? Because dark roast, where it has no caffeine, so it doesn't energize you enough to come back. We already have some on that roster, respectfully. Medium roast is like, okay, it's not too bad, but there are things that obviously could be there to really pick it up and step up a notch. Blonde roast, because I used to work at Starbucks, so that's how I just put it in my head. Blonde roast, like, this is a pretty solid one, not one that did too much outside of the norm, but it's a great read. You definitely want to go back. But espresso meets expectations that you didn't even know you had.
Exceeds them.
I mean? And exceeds them.
I still give it a cup rating though. Like,
yeah,
it gives me 8 out of 10 cups.
Yeah, if you have a blonde roast, you can have a blonde roast while you read that and be just fine. You have a pretty energetic day. Yeah, it's something easy to go to, but I wouldn't expect it. It'd be a comic that I don't think would make like a 30-panel issue. I think I would get overwhelmed by the artsy side of it and tackling head on like the tough topics. I like that it's bite sized, so it's a light read, like a blonde roast. You're drinking it to go.
It could be a good little little novel all together.
Yeah,
like, as an anthology.
Yeah, put it all at once. Yeah, see if they could stretch that, but it's one that the way that it has it right now, where it's just small, couple panels here. Here's the issue. It does it. Yeah,
blonde roast it is.
Yeah,
Something is Killing the Children though. That's an espresso. I'm telling you right now. It's an espresso.
It is. That's espresso as hell.
General overview. Something is Killing the Children is about something that is killing the children. Oh my god, who could have figured that out? It's about something that is killing the children. No, but for real, Something is Killing the Children follows a series of interesting situations in which a child sees something that they think is real, maybe not real, we don't know. And subsequently, after that child sees this thing everyone around the child begins to die, specifically children. And then, as more and more children go missing and more children are found up dead in the worst way possible, I'm talking about missing arms, missing legs, missing, and entrails in the trees. It's crazy. As more and more children they find mutilated, lying all over this small little town in the middle of nowhere, a mysterious blonde woman figure comes into the picture. Could she be the savior, or could she be a part of something more nefarious? And that is basically the overview of Something is Killing the Children.
That's a sizable intro. There's so many layers to it.
There is so many layers. That's why I'm trying to keep it light.
I got into it because I wasn't aware of Something is Killing the Children. Like I go into Coliseum, the comic book.
Shout out Coliseum of Comics, sponsor us.
Shout out Coliseum of Comics. You know me already. I already have like 4 different gift cards that are at 10, so I can get $10 off the next time I visit. Anyway, every time I go in, I see I've seen Something is Killing the Children, like volume 1 or 2, but I saw a really dope first issue of House of Slaughter, which is a prequel. And after reading that one issue, I was like, if this is going to be a prequel, I got to see where it actually starts, where it picks up. So I picked up the first volume, couldn't put it down, so I have volumes 2 and 3. And I think that's where it stops for now, because it will be coming back in March. And one thing that stuck with me is even though that it has like this one protagonist, kind of predictable at first, this edgy protagonist, don't talk to me, I'm just here for business, but I'm not even here for the business people that run the business, that bit doesn't take away from the story at all.
I agree.
And the gore is not too overdone, where it's just there is no story, it's just about slashing. It exists in a very fair balance. The dialogue is believable. Like, the kids sound like kids.
Yeah.
Because you'll see in some comics, especially ones that we may give like a medium or dark roast to, you'll have a kid talking like an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's like, watch
have
out.
A kid talking like an AI typed out for
just
a
robotic.
Kid.
You just need to say this
Don't
to set up the...
about my dad.
Yeah, or other non-important characters that only say what the protagonist needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead of like when she went into the cave and she actually found whatever, instead of saying, "They're right over there, mister. By the way, thanks for saving me," like that that default unnecessary cookie cutter stuff. Everybody has a personality in there. The trauma develops on unnecessary characters, so it actually builds that world. And the kids that are children and adults, because the adults could get touched too.
Oh yeah.
Everybody that's
can get it.
Missing jaws, rib cages torn out, and used on another person, and the guy missing his hand can't even give a high five anymore. Goddamn.
Listen.
He said hi.
Oh wow. It was. I honestly, as someone who loves slasher gore, Greg Nicotero level of just cut them up, slash them up, dice them up. Violence for violence sake.
Part of a balance.
Don't quote me on this anyway. As someone who really enjoys like gore slasher material, I think that Something Killing the Children really stuck with me. One of my favorite things about The Walking Dead, when it was like doing well in my eyes, is that it didn't stray away from depicting children in messed up situations. I know that sounds bad, but let me try to save it, even though I'm not going to save myself. Something in the Killing the Children. Them children is dead. Them children is not waking up. It's not pretty. It's not cute. These kids, homeboy was missing his mandible, his whole lower jaw. No arms.
And the thing is, it talks about like one of the underlying themes, which kind of ties into that, which is why I interrupted, is your fear is real.
Yeah.
Fear is real. So fear, you're like, oh no, those are just those are the monsters in your mind. See, they don't, and like your fear materializes, and so it's like if you are afraid of, you have a reason to be afraid of the dark if you're afraid of the dark. And like that one simple mantra just permeates this entire world, where this one city isn't even the only city that feels it or experiences it.
But don't give it away.
Like it's
too much.
It's too real, and that's why I like it. It's too real.
My only critique for this book, and again, I still rated an espresso, but my only critique is that I felt like, and this is coming from someone who, before something is killing children, I actually sat down to read it. Everybody in their mama in the comic community was talking about Something is Killing the Children. It literally constantly came up in conversation. Have you read Something is Killing the Children? It's such a good book, and rightfully so, by the way. Like, it is in fact that good. I would highly suggest you to read it. But it just, for me as a first-time reader of the comic, I do think it did, unfortunately, aid to its predictability. I think, now I will say, giving it kudos where kudos is due. The beginning of the book, that whole first maybe 10 pages, immaculately done. I was floored. It felt like I was watching animation. I was reading animation, I should say. It was wonderful. I love the way that the characters are drawn and the environment is drawn different than the monster in the story is drawn. Loved how that worked. I loved everything about it. I just thought it was a touch too predictable. There were some moments that caught me off guard, but the overall premise of the story, like the overall flow of everything that was happening, felt like, okay, I've kind of seen this before. However, it does do a good job of taking some predictability and doing a good job of flowing it into its own way. It doesn't feel so predictable. It's like, I've seen this before. It's predictable in the sense of, I can kind of see where this is going. It made sense of where this was going. So when things happen, some things just didn't catch me by surprise. Doesn't mean the comic wasn't good. And again, it was probably because everybody named Mama hyped up this book, again, as they should. But it just felt a little predictable. However, I have not read Volume 2 and 3, so it is.
Oh, they get so much gorier.
What I will do is, we might come back on the podcast and talk about issues 2 and 3 and see if my thought process changed. But Something Killed the Children is amazing, and you should absolutely read it. It's a Boom Comics published release. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it was published by Boom Comics, so you can go on Boom Comics or Boom Publishing. I forgot how they pronounce their thing. You can go there and get the comic, or your local bookshop, who should absolutely have a copy. So yeah, that was. Anything else you want to tack on to that?
You will not be disappointed by that. It's a good one if you wanted to pick up. It's so popular that it's hard to find those volumes.
It is hard to find.
It is. I had to subscribe to my comic book store so they could call me and let me know that they had an issue saved for me, and then I only had 2 days to get it, and I was like, bet, just let me know, because it's super solid.
Oh,
so
yeah. Oh, not me.
Go ahead and interrupting the audio, goddamn. But no, everybody else speaking.
Leave me alone. I was just trying to turn down my phone volume. Gosh, trying to be professional. Anywho,
that's like since we're talking about stuff that appeals to my childhood, it's always because you're on that doggone phone. I broke my leg. You would have been fine if you were looking at your phone all the time playing in video games. Sorry, I just had to decompress.
Oh no, it's fine. You know that's why the electric bill's so high.
God dang. Got nothing to do with this.
Because you keep running. You either stay in or you out. Running in and out my house.
Make it be mine.
And finally, the last comic we're going to talk about is Everything is Fine, written and illustrated by Mike Birchall. It is a webtoon comic, and it is some good. It's good.
It's good.
It's good. It's good. Like, if you're someone who likes horror, but like not explicit, like, oh my gosh, not explicit, something explicit like Everything is Killing the Children. Not punny and funny, where it's like Clinic of Horrors, where it's kind of like it's horror elements, like a genuine, eerie, unnerving, uncomfortable horror, psychological horror, dystopian horror. You're going to love Everything is Fine.
Oh man,
Everything is Fine.
I just read it today. I read all of it, all 29 gradually depressing issues.
I told you to read it multiple times, and you're just like, I'm gonna get to it.
Yeah, I know I'm good with giving comic recommendations, but then you're like, oh, check this one out, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'll put it on the list. But then you actually sat me down and read it, and I'm glad I did.
My recommendations.
We both collectively have a long list of comics.
That's true.
And anime to talk about and debate on and review. But this one here, I initially did have like a surface level complaint before we even read. Like I saw the first panel and I judged way too early because she didn't prep me.
I did it.
She did not prep me. So I look at it, and if you go on the Webtoons app, a lot of the series that I've checked out and followed on there, they all. I'm not a fan of reading a comic and I see that the comic has a lot of computer animation on it. Like the buildings.
You don't like things that look like, oh, they just took the pen and they just hit duplicate.
Like if they're in a room, don't just
people need to save
draw a uniform computer line a room. Like I want to see some of those imperfect strokes. You're like, oh, this is an actual world you built. I like the extra artist touch.
Oh no,
so,
I get it.
They may have great drawn out characters and the poses and all that. That's fine. I just get a little bit more apprehensive when the room, like the living room, doesn't have as much of a touch as the people. Like you see the base drawn for the people, but you just did a couple rectangles on the computer program.
I will say this. When I was going to start Everything Is Fine, I didn't think I wanted to read it because the caption was horror, but the characters, and I love cutesy aesthetic, like kawaii, cute pink pastel, anything like that, it's got my name all over it.
Mm-hmm.
So it just didn't seem right that these two cute little cat characters, like people bodies but cat faces.
Oh no, they're in trouble.
And the thing was horror. However, it had 3.whatever million likes on the Webtoon.
Yeah.
And I was just like, anything that's got that many likes on Webtoon is gotta be worth it. And it's been featured on Webtoon in like their little featured swipe tab more than once. So I was just like, this must be worth something. So before I even read it, I scrolled down to the very bottom of the first comic without reading it, and I read like the reviews, like people commenting on it, which saved me a lot of time on a lot of Webtoon reading. And they were like, "This is amazing! I love how eerie this is! I can't wait to see what's coming next." And I was just like, So I skipped to the next one, scrolled to the bottom. They're like, "I love where this is going." I was like, "Okay, I'll read it." And I'm not gonna lie, the beginning's a little dry, but the beginning is eerie. And so I get it. I understand why you're apprehensive to read it, but that's why I told you to read it without. But I'm glad I didn't prep you because it made everything else so much better.
Oh my gosh, I was unprepared, and I was kind of glad that I was, because I had to put those initial just surface level answers to the side. But you get over that after the first issue. It leaves just that one question. It was like, what the?
Right. Did you double take?
You did.
Made you double take, huh?
This was boring. Wait, that ain't boring. What is that? You know.
Right. Overview though, before we get too far into like reviewing the comic, Everything Is Fine follows a society of cat-faced people who live for the most part pretty happy lives. It gives very like 1950s kind of lives. However, they have a lot of modern technologies like updated showers, and they have electric alarm clocks and nothing like that. But it just gives you, it's like the perfect melding between like modern appliance but 1950s aesthetics. And everybody is super, hello neighbor, how are you? Well, I'm having a dandy do all day. It gives it's too clean. And then as you progress through the comic, you realize that society and the way these people operate, and the people themselves, the main characters, Bob and Maggie, are not what they initially seem.
Yep.
That's the best overview I can say without spoil. I feel like if I tell you anything else other than that, I'm going to spoil it. So if you don't want to hear the rest of this review, you should skip it and finish the podcast. But it's good.
But then come back so we get twice the views.
Yes, please do.
Do that. Absolutely.
But
I endorse that.
Please, yes, double tap, and then double tap again, and then make your friends and your mom double tap.
And if you don't do that, your knee's gonna pop for the next 2 days.
Oh wow, okay, aggressive, but I second it. Knee popping president, yeah, cool. That's not Everything Is Fine though.
The knees won't be. You gonna come back? Please come back.
Everything Is Fine. Again, it's super eerie, and I love it. I like the fact that the art is super clean. I think that helped to sell the horror.
I was gonna circle back to that. It played into their favor because there are, like I was saying, there are a lot of webtoons that already have it. Where like they put so much into this and maybe the writing, but I'm gonna put them in a room. Let's just generate a room. But this one here, it fit. Mm-hmm. It made sense. Even that little detail worked for the story, and there's no laziness in the writing.
Oh no,
it's layered.
So layered.
It is layered. It even some questions. There are some questions that like they bug you enough where you're like, okay, let me just take a break from the issue, but I gotta find out. Only a break because I gotta find out. Like I had questions of like, what is that?
He was reading right on my couch, and he's just like...
I was hypothesizing the whole time. I was like, I'm just going to talk it out, but don't tell me, but I'm going to talk it out. What I think this is. That can't be it. Are they even... They can't be alive. What if this means...
What if they're this? What if they're that? And I'm just like, gotta keep reading.
It's a good issue if the wheels are spinning and you hope that you're wrong. And you're in the middle of like creating what ifs and possible fan fiction while you're still reading the story itself.
Oh yeah, and I love how subtle it is. Like everything is super subtle. Everything, but then when it gets real, when everything is fine gets real. When the climax is climaxing, it's very
climaxing like a honeymoon.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's a good analogy. Caught me off guard there, but
boom.
Touché.
You were overdue.
Oh goodness. Anywho, good stuff.
Anytime.
If I could talk about anything with Everything Is Fine, I think my favorite touch for Everything Is Fine is its attention to hyper detail. Like, not just small detail, but like hyper small details. Like, it gets almost SpongeBob hyper realistic sometimes from the way that these people chew. Sometimes it's their eye. Sometimes it's when the horror starts to get a little too intense. Mm-hmm. I love it when it gets hyper realistic. I love when things get super tense. And Everything Is Fine. The writer... Mike does such a good job of allowing the everything to build up and get super intense, and that intensity, and then when the intensity pops, and either it just falls flat or not falls flat in a bad way, but like it doesn't engage you anymore, and you're like, now it wants you to focus on something else, or it pops and now it's the climax. It's just so good. There's not really a good way to explain Everything Is Fine other than you should just read Everything Is Fine because it's super freaking bingeable.
Absolutely.
It's you can binge it in a day. You can read it in a day. It's worth it. I endorse it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's solid. It's definitely a yay comic. It's a yay comic.
It's one of the simpler comics, but it's an espresso. I'm comfortable giving it an espresso.
It's a very simple espresso. It does exactly as much as it needs to for the core elements, and then builds upon it, and you go along for the ride, and you can't put it down until it's done.
Oh, you can't. It is that good. I would say with Everything Is Fine, set your expectations moderately. Try not to go into this expecting this grandiose thing, because that I feel may let you down. It's not that the comic will let you down, but just don't set your expectations super high. Allow yourself to enjoy the read. Allow yourself to just let yourself float. Don't set any expectations about the art or where the story is headed. Just let yourself experience and enjoy wherever you go. And I think that's the best way to read this comic. Yeah. Anything else?
You pretty much said it. Hit a nail on the head. So we actually had a good crop. We had a good set of choices for these recommendations. They all come pretty highly recommended this time.
Yeah, I think the only one that was mid, it wasn't even mid, it was just Clinic of Horrors. We just rated it a blonde. All of these are good. I suggest you... Oh yeah, Everything Is Fine is a webtoon. You can read it on Webtoons. This one doesn't have any problems. Actually, the whole first season of Everything Is Fine is completely done. So you can read it. It even has like a little mini issue, and there's a Q&A from the artist. So it gives you a chance to kind of see if your questions get asked, see if some of your ideas and theories maybe potentially get alluded to. Who knows? But definitely March Birchall does an amazing job with Everything is Fine. And just running through our docket again so you know exactly what we went through. It was Antagonist issues 1 through 3 by Tyler Martin. You can get your comics at godhoodcomics.com, going to their shop. Clinic of Horrors you can read on the web browser version of Webtoons. Something is Killing the Children, you can read it online at Boom Comics, or you should go online and get a copy, or you can go to your local comic book shop. It's a very popular book. You can find it pretty easily. And Everything is Fine is a Webtoon comic as well. Just go on Webtoons and it should work fine on the app. But yeah, that's everything of everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since we have nothing else to say, I guess we'll just end it out here.
The glorious conclusion.
Yeah, so if you want to find us on social webs, because we talk about comics on this podcast, where can we find you, good sir?
You most definitely can find me at Space Lloyd 8 for Twitch, where I usually would definitely be streaming. Twitter and Instagram as well. It's all the same. Space and then LLOYD, the number 8. There's only one. It's just my favorite number and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then on YouTube, Space Case Gaming. Same thing for Facebook as well. So you can catch me in a couple different places. And my WordPress, because I also will be doing some writing there as well. That's the Altius Voyage. So ALTIUS voyage.wordpress.com.
Or you can just go to his website that is there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I have one of those things.
I mean, it's a card, but it's pretty fancy if I don't say so myself.
Yeah.
Like where can we find you on your little web thingy?
Spaceloid8.card.co.
You are such a liar. That is not it at all.
Well, then tell me then.
I don't know either. I just know it's not that.
Oh my gosh.
It's like Space Case Gaming, I think. Or Space
I'm gonna tell you right now.
Gaming.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
Tell me.
I got you.
Do your thing.
The thing that I'm about to say right now is the answer to the previous question. Give me a moment.
Okay, well, while you figure that out, I'm gonna tell everybody about myself because I'm a narcissist. You can...
It is actually spaceloidgaming.card.co. So
see, I told you I was some kind of
exactly. I said it was Space Lloyd Gaming, but
yeah. You can find me on my website at blackenculture.card CARRD.com. I'm sorry, .co CO. Or if you want to be doing it the old-fashioned way, you can find me on Instagram, Black and Culture Official. You can find me on Twitter, Black and Culture 1. You can find me on TikTok, Black and Culture. You can find me on YouTube, Black and Culture. Also, follow me on Twitter because I find myself to be pretty funny on Twitter. Did someone say something? Anywho, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. This has been another Black Coffee Comics podcast. Thank you so much for listening or watching, no matter where you are. If you're watching this on Spotify, if listening to this on Spotify, thank you so much. Watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. And we will see you next time. Bye.
Later.